I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg. Wow, my voice cracked. I must be 9. I'm 18 again.
It was like that version of the episode of the Brady Bunch where Peter's was changing, and they made a song out of it. Was- When it's time to change, you remember?
I do, but I can't sing. And none
Yeah.
of that. If my voice is cracking, I got to get ready for practicing my bar mitzvah. So I have to leave.
Wow. Well, we wouldn't want that to happen. So we are the CRM Playaz. It is a beautiful Thursday here in the Atlanta metro area. I'm really digging it. And I'm also digging the vest. But before I explain the vest, look who it is. The one and only Sven.
Hey, Sven. Hello, Emberek. I'm guessing, I don't know why hello, but the Emberek makes me think Turkish.
Or is he just misspelling Emberzerk or something like that?
Hello, Berserk, Emberzerk. I'm thinking Turkish only because of Emberek. The hello is throwing me because that's English. So Sven, let us know, of course, as always.
Yeah, that's kind of a mixture.
Yeah. I mean, maybe hello is the way they do it in Turkish. Or maybe it's not Turkish.
I don't know. It's a good one. Oh, oh wow. I didn't know she was going to show up, but we got a special guest in the green room.
I know who.
You know it is because she has a vested interest in our guest being on later.
Yeah.
So we will explain all that further. But Sven, you're gonna have to let us know what languages because I think you're on a streak. Haven't you like hit the last three or something?
I'm close. Let's say this. My percentages are high. Oh, he's letting
Uh
us know.
oh, you're it
Nope,
looks like your
totally
streak is
wrong.
over.
Oh no. Emberek.
All right, well you got to tell us what it is. Yeah, there's an explanation, Christy. Although I think I might do a good job at that.
Yeah, well, I didn't think it was air traffic control. I thought it was like school bus control.
I could do a good job with that too.
Yeah.
But you noted, oh, this is a new one. I don't think we've had Hungarian on before.
That's Hungarian Emberek. Well, there are Turkish influences in Hungary. So I may claim a partial right.
I'll claim a partial right. I got the hello right. That was English.
Well, maybe it wasn't. That's the thing. That's what threw me.
How could hello not be English?
Well, it's English, but it may also be Hungarian way of doing it.
Well, I still claim the English part.
Okay.
I get it right.
So. Well, you're 50%. No, you're 33% right. Right. You're 33% right.
I'm feeling you. But notice, even though I'm wearing, kind of odd colors with the orange, the hat still has a Rams logo on. It's the original Rams logo.
I'm imagining you have one hat per color of the RGB spectrum, meaning 32 million hats.
I'm almost to that level. Yeah. It feels like it sometimes, but I am actually sporting this really bright colored vest because I feel like I earned it. It's like I earned my stripes. So yesterday I had an opportunity to visit one of the local Amazon delivery stations and get a personal tour with the person who runs the show there to see what actually takes place. Is part of the last mile piece to what Amazon does. So I got a chance to check out the delivery station, see all that goes on in there, and believe me, I was completely blown away and completely wrong with what I was thinking when I went into this visit. I'll have to explain it some other time, but
well, actually, how big was it?
250,000 square feet. This delivery station, and just to tell you, this is not a fulfillment center. I thought I was going to like a fulfillment center or like an all-in-one place. No, there's fulfillment centers, there's sorting centers or facilities. So it goes from your package once you order it, it goes from a fulfillment center to a sorting facility. And then from a sorting facility, it goes to what I went to, a delivery center. And just the delivery center that I went to was 250,000 square feet.
Which is bigger than Manassas.
So anyway, long story short, I can't get into all of that, but it was really fascinating. And I'll just say, I went in there thinking as soon as I walked in, it was going to be hot and sweaty and lots of people running around, mass chaos and sounds. It was more like a library than it was. Like
Really?
that. It was quiet and calm and clean and cool, and nobody seemed to be like rushing to meet deadlines. Everybody seemed to be very controlled and efficient. I'm putting my thoughts together around it, but I was blown away. And then I got on a delivery truck and went for a delivery, and that too was a really interesting experience. So I'll have to share that at some other point, because there's a lot of time. But I did have one little clip I was going to play. I didn't know if you know this. Did you know that there's notifications you can set up on the Amazon app that will kind of keep you abreast of where your package is? They give you notifications. So I had a chance. This gentleman right here, his name is Ross. I think his name is Ross. Pretty sure his name is Ross. Anyway, Ross is the person who handles the relationship with the DSPs, the delivery service partners, the folks who actually pick up the packages in those trucks and then they deliver it. There's
does that include like the both the big carriers and the independent individuals who are wow?
The DSPs are basically small businesses that deliver these things on a very systematic basis. Like, so when I was there, there's like this 2-hour window of time where they work with 7 distinct DSPs, and the way that they handle it is each DSP, which is a business that has multiple drivers, each DSP has a window of opportunity to come in. All of their drivers in trucks, they all come in at once. They have a 20-minute window to get all the stuff that they are going to have out on this one delivery run. So they got 20 minutes to get it all on their individual trucks and then get out of there, because then the next DSP comes in and does the same thing. But it wasn't chaotic at all, because of the whole process is very well down to the T in detail. All I say is they get, I think he said 169 folks get their stuff, put it on their trucks, and then go off to delivery all within that short amount of time. Anyway, it's too long. I don't want to take too much time with that, but I will say this. This is what I learned about the Amazon app, and it's just a short clip.
To give our customers that 360-degree view, consistent updates throughout the life of that package, so they understand when they're going to be receiving their package, right? So there's actually updates that customers will receive on their Amazon app as well, if they had the notifications turned on for updates for their delivery process. They'll even be updated for when the package leaves the fulfillment center and when it's heading to our delivery station, so it updates that delivery time. And then also, if a driver has that delivery stop next, it will notify the customer, you are next for the next stop of that driver's route, to basically proactively allow that customer to prepare for that delivery, to receive that package from that customer, and then also safely be able to retrieve that package at the time of that delivery.
I had no idea that the app did that.
Well, actually, I'm signed up for that. I do that all the time.
Really? I didn't know.
Yeah.
I usually just I go online and just it says it's coming on Tuesday, and it comes on Tuesday. I didn't even think about, wow, I can actually get notified when I'm the next one to get delivered. That's pretty cool. I thought that was pretty cool.
It works. I'll tell you that. I mean, I get one, and I get notification your package has been delivered too right away. As soon as it's delivered. I mean, I know by that time because my door.
You already opened it.
Well, right. I've already opened it and connected it to something. Right. So, but they're really good about it. That part I've always liked.
Yeah. So that's cool. And yeah, Brian, I'm rocking the vest that I got.
Village
It's like
people too.
a badge of honor. I look like I fit the part. Matter of fact, they were saying I was taking the information, I was getting it so quickly, I might want to come back and start working. So just saying.
Yeah. We got such an easy gig now, man. Why would you want to do that?
All right. So that was cool. All right. Now we do have our guest coming up shortly. But before we have our guest coming up, we have a buddy of ours coming up to talk about something that's really near and dear to us because, well, we are doing this live stream. We've been doing it for over 2 years. We do CRM Playaz, and we bring all sorts of crazy stuff with us that we can do these video conversations. And what's really cool is we aren't the only ones doing all this and buying all this crazy stuff anymore, because when we went to Zoho Day, it was at the end of July, we were impressed with somebody else who I think had an actually better camera than we had at the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Matter of fact, that
inspired
person
me to go buy one.
Yeah, that person right here is Dave Smith.
Hey man.
What's up? Hey guys.
Hey man, thanks for joining us. Yeah, I have to tell you, we were both envious of your suitcase, your briefcase, because we saw all that you had put in there.
Yeah.
The lights, the cameras, the mics. We had we had envy. We were pretty envious.
Not only that, I mean, when he was the other thing that I was like blown away by, you were using false color and histograms and and I'm thinking a histogram to me was I thought that was something like when you had a cold, you
histamine.
I had no idea.
All right, hey man,
no, he's not sneezing. Right?
Tell us why you decided to go that level, because we've seen people, we've seen you at events before.
Yeah.
We didn't see.
There you go.
We saw you, with the, like a little maybe the phone thing. But when look, he got the LUT table and all that kind of stuff. So this time around, you brought, like I said, you brought the devices, the big time mics, the Black Magic camera. So why are you going that route now?
You guys, it's all you guys. You did this to me. No, it's funny, man. During so it was you guys, but during the pandemic, that first year, 2020, my first, after everything started getting canceled, all my in-person stuff got canceled, I got a gig to do a virtual presentation, with a big tech company, right? And so they, sent me, the huge, like hard Pelican case filled with 4K camera and lights and all this stuff. I'm just like, what is it? I mean, they're like MI6 agents at my door. I had to sign off my life. But it was kind of crazy. So I'm like, okay. So I started taking down the bill of materials. I'm like, okay, the 4K cameras, all this stuff's going on, and they had sent a separate laptop, and they had OBS and all this stuff going on.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it was weird, wild stuff. And then the gentleman came back to my door dressed up and give stuff back after the event was over. Yeah, no, I say, and my sisters, they were sent from London, which is kind of crazy. It was wild. It was wild stuff. But so I began wow, this is like the production value was serious, and then began to see you guys doing the live stream. I'm like, man, this is and your guys' setup was good, and you guys had the lighting was right. You were switching cameras. I'm like, this is kind of wild, and the audio was good. And I saw Rode mics, I saw RV20 mics. I'm like, oh, these guys are serious about their production. This is wild stuff. So you guys definitely inspired me to kind of get into it more.
So
is that? Oh, by the way, when that presentation was done, that's why you literally moved right to another house, so you can
exactly.
Couldn't find you again. Using those cameras right now. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So Brent mentioned the Black Magic. So I kind of I try to look at what's the best camera for my setup. So I looked at DSLRs and looked at cinema cameras and kind of settled on the Black Magic camera just for the level of control. And and I was a Canon shooter before, so I had a Canon DSLR doing little side photography stuff. So I'm like, Black Magic takes the Canon lenses, so it was perfect for me.
So, I mean, I have technical questions for you, but I won't ask them now on the Canon. Well, no, but I will tell you, you actually are the reason I went out and actually bought. I bought the Blackmagic 6K G2 because I don't need.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And
Nice.
but that was because of you at Soho Day.
Wow.
Right? And I'm still
you
playing with it. That's what it looks like right now, but I still got work to do with it.
Yeah, but
Oh,
Paul,
wow,
can
yeah.
you actually send him the invoice then, since he was?
Do I get a console fee?
So
that offsets the invoice cost.
Right.
Here's the question. It's kind of a serious question. Does doing this kind of stuff, does it change your approach to when something like a Dreamforce is coming up? Does it change the way that you approach an analyst event like that for you and I and for Paul? Does it change the way you think about content? Does it change the way that you want to kind of deliver your thought leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. It changes, I'm covering it the same way, but my covers, the way I'm covering it is different, because now I'm thinking visually as well as, what might I write about this, or what might I say? I can say more things, quickly in the moment, visually make, put a camera on and just go live stream. I can write something, but it just changed the way I look at an event. And now I'm looking at, oh, there's available light over there. Let me set up a camera and talk to the people.
So what is it? What do you? I mean, look, there are a lot of people who do talk to us, about how do we do this? I mean, and the how do we do this is kind of a big deal at this point, because it's interesting if you think about it. Given that I think we've all accepted the fact that hybrid's going to be the world as we continue to know, as we know it going forward. One of the things that I know we've been preaching basically to some of those big tech companies, look, they have, you look at the Salesforce Plus, they have professional studios and stuff, but that doesn't mean that a lot of their executives aren't working from home, right? And and ultimately they're spokespeople for the company. And, the thing that we've been saying to them is, look, you're going to have to you have to look and sound good. I mean, there's one of two things, low level, so that audio and video are not a distraction. You have to have a certain amount of setup. Higher level, if you want it to be part of the overall experience, you have to have a different and, more, let's say probably more complex, but at least more elaborate or higher quality setup. So if people come to you with that, what do you tell them to do?
Yeah, I think first thing is that it's way more achievable. Like we left Zoho Day, you went and bought, a Blackmagic G2, right? I mean, it's way more achievable now. The lighting has come down. Funny, you mentioned Dreamforce. I remember it was, I think, around either 2020, later on that year, I saw Benioff. He took, I think, a snapshot of his little small office setup in his home, and he had a DSLR, and broadcasting that way. So I think it's catching on. So I think basically it's just, it's achievable. It's budget conscious if you want to be. You can, all the materials you can get from Best Buy, and Amazon, of course. I see Brett rocking the man of the people vest over there.
All right, so here's the question. I want you to kind of look into the camera, act like you're talking to, it could be Benioff, but somebody at Dreamforce.
Yeah.
And you want to tell them what you would like for them to provide, or at least think about from your perspective as an analyst who's doing this. What do you want them to keep in mind when you go there and you want to do video? What are the things that you think the vendor needs to be thinking about so that you're able to do this the way you want to do it?
Yeah, what's funny, so with the pre-Dreamforce survey, one of the questions that they asked in the survey was, do you plan to do video and live streaming? Right. So it's good that I think they're thinking about it, but in terms of the venue, the vendor, please make, high-speed Wi-Fi available. Ethernet, even better, right? Rooms that are well lit, maybe rooms with windows, for available light. I mean, we got spoiled in Austin because we got an aperture 120D supplied in the room. So I'm just saying, Salesforce or whoever else, having some like a media room, with that's well lit with the lighting equipment be great too. But definitely the high speed internet, Ethernet, that's definitely a plus. Yeah, and lots of outlets. We need power, lots of juice.
Yes. Actually, it's right over here to my not viewable. I don't want to get up and move a camera. This is an aperture 120D.
See, there you
Mine's
go.
right here. I got mine right here.
There you go. And and similar, mine is right there, 45 degrees with a fill light coming there,
All right, Dave, this has been really great. I really appreciate it. What's the next thing you're going to buy before we let you go? What's the next thing you're looking to buy?
So guys, I'm trying to make my footprint as small as possible. I'm looking at those long LED tubes. That'll be my next thing.
From Aperture.
Yeah. So those, I'm looking at, I'm thinking, the light I have is actually pretty big. So if I can fit a couple tubes in like a hard suitcase, perfect. Yeah.
The good thing is Dave's got the arms to carry all of that stuff.
Yeah, right, that's right. That's how he lifts at the gym.
Yeah.
Tube light.
That's the reason why I go to the gym. Exactly.
Right. 80-pound tube light. So actually, I will tell you on a very small basis, like I actually created rigs we have portable for me and Brent when we go. Then I have one when I go somewhere for my with a MacBook Pro and a camera and the YOLO box and so on. And then I have one that's just for an iPhone. And but the so the moment lens for the iPhone, but the light is Aperture's MC2 lights. I've got a couple of those, and they're tiny. And they project an enormous amount of.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah, you might want to even look into them, and they're really small. I literally can put one on a, like a rig.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's awesome. And I don't use hair lights because I don't have any hair, but backlight is still good.
All right. Hey, Dave, where can people find you and the stuff that you're writing in your cover?
Sure. I am at infloanalysis.com, on Twitter at Dave Mario. And I'm on LinkedIn. I forget what my LinkedIn profile long link thing is, but I'm on LinkedIn at Dave Smith. So.
By the way, we couldn't even get into the fact that this dude is a rapper and has some really good stuff.
You see the guitars and stuff in the back. So this is office/studio, media hope. So the whole thing.
Well, hopefully we'll see you in a couple of weeks, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah,
for sure.
Let's coordinate. Yeah.
All right. You're on.
Take care,
guys.
All right, man.
Dude, that was fun. We're definitely going to do more of that.
I know. That guy's so great. I love that guy. Absolutely love that guy.
Speaking of, we weren't really speaking of new guests because he'd been on with us before, so we can't say that Dave was a new guest. I was trying to figure out a really cool segue. I just couldn't do it. My mind is still in the Amazon delivery station. I'm still rocking the vest. But I leave it to you now because this is a first-time CRM Playaz guest that we have coming up. And as usual, I turn things over to the venerable one, Paul Greenberg, for the introduction of today's guest.
I'll have to go find the guy somewhere. Find the venerable guy. We have to get Steve on. So here's the thing. So I got a chance. I knew Andy a little bit. Andy MacMillan, who's the CEO of UserTesting. I knew this gentleman a little bit when he was CEO of Acton. And a lot of the people now, and I'm going to tell you something interesting about this guy in a second. Yes, he's the CEO of UserTesting, but he doesn't, when you see his face, you'll never think he has a long history of anything because he just doesn't look old enough to have it. But he's been at Oracle. He's been at Salesforce in senior roles. He's been, as I said, CEO of Acton. And he really took Acton out there and made them very visible and took them on their leap forward. Now, the thing with Andy that I find really fascinating, and this came out in a conversation we had a couple of days ago, is that a lot of the Acton veterans and people who I even knew, like Paige Musto and others before Acton, knew it NetSuite,
Yeah.
like
really.
followed him to UserTesting. See, and I've always found it to be the hallmark of a great leader is the willingness of his colleagues, friends, partners in business, however they want to characterize them, but they're all of those things because they are genuinely friends too, to go with him or her to wherever they are going. And he's exactly had that phenomenon. The other one like that, honestly, is Bob Stutz has people like that.
Well, we know that from last week.
Yeah. I mean, people will go where he or she goes. And Andy is one of those people who that's happened with, which shows you his character as a human being. So, the thing is that we should just bring the guy on because he's also a fan of the show, which I found out too.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, Andy.
Hey, guys.
Hey, man. How are you?
I'm good. I was enjoying that last conversation. I was geeking out on my home setup a while ago as well. So that was good.
You know what? We have to ask you then. What do you got?
Yeah.
First thing.
So I moved back into my office a little while ago, and then we're rearranging our garage. So all I've got right now is the new Apple Studio display, which has a nice camera. It does a pretty good job on the green screen processing. But I actually have a green screen, a Blackmagic HDMI mixer. I had a Canon camera. I got a little condenser mic. Like I had all the gear for a little while, and it's all waiting to be brought back out and reset up. So you're getting me in a little bit of a lightweight mode today.
That's all right. It seems to be working fine.
Yeah,
so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I look better not in as much HD, so that's part of the secret here. You need that right level of camera for what you're showing up with.
Yeah, I believe me. That's what Brent and I spend most of our current lives trying to figure that out.
The last time I talked to Andy, I think you had recently kind of started as the CEO over at I forget the name of it, Acton.
Yeah.
And so that's been like 4 or 5 years or something like that.
So I've been at UserTesting for over 4 years now, and I did about 3-year stint at Acton. So it's been a little bit. Time sort of zips by, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So for those who don't know exactly what UserTesting does, could you explain what you guys do?
Yeah, I'm a big believer all the best ideas are pretty obvious in retrospect, and I sort of think UserTesting is a bit obvious in retrospect, which is when you are building some kind of experience, a product, a digital experience, think of us as like a fast technology-powered focus group. So you build a design for a new checkout process in Figma. You can come into UserTesting. It's an enterprise software product. You pick your audience. You decide what you're looking for. You upload your prototype. You hit submit. Our technology goes out and finds those very specific people that you're looking for out of this network of people that we have. Those folks follow your test plan. They record themselves. It's all opt-in. They share their screen. They narrate their experience. They tell you what they like, they don't like. We collect all those videos. We do it very quickly. Most come back, but 80% come back in an hour or two. So very fast. And then we have all this really cool machine learning because of the scale and size of the company and all the videos that come through on our platform, where we actually go through and find what we call the moments of human insight, which is sort of those little bits where people like, don't like, when they're confused, they're frustrated. And then you can create a highlight reel out of that and share that video across the organization. So we're really trying to be the sort of the counterpart to the trend towards analytics, which is like, wouldn't it be nice to also see real people using the experience that you're building? Isn't that what motivates us ultimately to sort of create a better experience for end users? And so we help many of the biggest brands in the world do that at sort of agile pace and scale.
So I know I actually signed up for your, like free demo. It was unfortunately I signed up for it 10 minutes before we started. So right.
It hasn't happened yet?
Well, actually it might have. That's what I'm going to check first. No, not yet. I'm looking. Well, wait. It said someone completed your free test. So
it's fast.
Wow. So you know what?
Really?
Now here's the thing. I hate my site. Right. I wasted a lot of money on it, and it didn't come out anything like I wanted it to be. So I'm going to be, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to sign it up, to see what came back.
Yep.
Now I can I have it here. Apparently, it says watch the video. At some point, if we care to, we can play it. I don't care. I haven't seen it yet. So
yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do when we go in on a sales call is we'll tell our prospect, we already ran some people through your site. Would you like to hear what they had to say? And most people say, that sounds really personal. Can I watch it in private? They don't want to watch somebody go through and say negative things in front of folks. But Paul, if you're the sharing type,
I am.
nothing like a live unscripted demo. I have a lot of conviction, so we can give it a shot.
Well, I'll tell you the first plus is, so what time is it? It came back in 36 minutes.
Yeah,
it's almost like that Domino's 30 minutes or less kind of thing. You get your demo video back in 36 minutes. That's not bad. I've seen the commercials. What you explained, it felt like I already saw it because that's what the commercial kind of looked like. The way the people were there, asking a question and answering in real time. And is it similar to? Is it really kind of like that?
It is. I mean, think of the core problem we have when we build really technical things is that you hire a bunch of people with PhDs and master's degrees in computer science and data science, and then they build something. And then we wonder, like, why was it hard for somebody that got their first iPhone last year from their son-in-law to go through the sign-up process? And you're sort of like, the disconnect there is massive. We actually call that, we call it the empathy gap. It's this inability to sort of walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, see it from their point of view. And then the hard part for a lot of companies is then they use a bunch of analytics to try to start optimizing that process. But it's like, you're not even to the optimizing phase yet. Like, you haven't really understood why it's so hard. And, you think of any business that we used to run, before the digital era. If you ran a hardware store, I saw them giving you the Amazon vest feedback there, Brent. So let's say you ran a physical store in the past. Walmart, a good example, right? Walmart, Sam Walton was famous for walking the floors of Walmart stores and observing customer shopping, talking to customers, talking to employees. And then he said he would go back to Arkansas and tell everybody to do whatever it is that the employees and the customers told them to do. How do you do that if you're Amazon? How do you go walk around an Amazon store? And so I don't think analytics is a sole replacement for that. You have to sort of see people. You have to sort of be able to walk a mile in their shoes. And so that's what we do for companies, is sort of let them do that. And I think it's powerful, not only because the companies get the perspective, I think it's powerful for customers. Like, we want to be heard. We want people to ask us. We have some customers that are using user testing almost as a loyalty perk for their high-end customers. They go out to them and say, hey, our design team is redesigning our mobile app as one of our top 1% of shoppers. We'd like to hear from you on how that should work. That's really powerful. That's very different than sort of being spied upon and tracked all over the internet as we go around. I'm like,
right.
Hey, crazy idea. Like, ask your customers what they want and listen to them. I know it's a little out there, kind of an edgy concept, but I think it could have legs.
Well, it's fascinating that you're providing audiences, basically, and that I just took a quick look at the video, and I guess the way you do the test or the free test is a single viewer.
Yes.
And so this person she's female, 46 years old, and has a $200,000 income. So,
but is she a Yankees fan?
Well, we'll find that out.
If it's a Patriots fan, you got to just throw that one out.
You can qualify based on that. So, what's really cool is you can ask any set of questions to find just the right audience. So you could say, I absolutely don't want these folks, and I don't want these folks, and that's okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, when we're ready, Brent, you just give me the cue and I'll set it up to share the screen and watch.
Well, before you do that,
I know.
Charlie does have an interesting question for you. He says a serious question and when Charlie gets serious, we stop.
Yeah, that doesn't happen a lot. I know Charlie from Salesforce days, so I like it.
So he says, can you also do accessibility testing?
So we do. What I'd be very clear about, though, is there's sort of accessibility compliance. So think of that as like meeting the legal minimum requirements of the law. We are not a compliance testing platform. We have a lot of companies who come to us and say, we're not trying to meet the bare minimum. We're actually trying to create a great experience for people that have accessibility challenges or different accessibility needs. And so you can come into our platform. You can find people with different accessibility levels or capabilities or things that they need help with. And you can test with them to see what the experience looks like and feels like from their perspective. So So sort of a yes or no. If you're trying to create a great experience that's accessible, we can help you do that. If you're really just looking for your lawyers to be able to say, like we did the bare minimum, we have a compliance level, there are sort of compliance platforms you would use to do that.
Okay.
You want to give it a shot?
All right. Let's see if we can do it. I'm going to share
All right.
the screen. Let's see what happens. Well, I'll do it. I'll have to share the screen and then I'll have to flip the thing.
All right, so I got
Okay,
it. I'm adding it.
Hold on. Can you see the? I can't see anything. So can you?
We'll have to see what's faster, the user testing results or us being able to share it.
Yeah. Can you see the user testing screen right now?
We see your whole desktop,
whole
but I think we do see the screen.
Yeah, we see.
Okay, all I can see is the tab with the screen up. So here we go. I'll just play it and see what happens. Wait a minute. Let me try something else here. How about now? Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I went to full screen. Here we go.
Do we have to like narrate this or something? Or?
No, they
No,
do. So I don't think we have your audio yet.
Okay, wait a minute. Now that is interesting. All right. I'm not sure. They don't give me an option to share audio specifically. You know what you know what? I know what I have to do. I have to change the sound source, I assume. Let me see. I'll hear it's going to go through my speakers, I would imagine.
Well, while you're doing all that, unless you got it going, because
I don't.
You know what?
But it would be narrated, so you see the little task.
No, I can hear, and I can actually hear her. You just not hearing her, but that's coming through my headphones. That's why.
Yeah, well, maybe we should try this some other time because.
But what it does, it is a good illustration. So it's not. Maybe it's sometimes interesting to talk about what something's not. We're not turning on somebody's camera they're not expecting. This isn't somebody like browsing the internet and being spied upon. This is somebody who's opted into giving feedback. They know they're being recorded. And it's not just random feedback. They get guided through a series of tasks that you ask them to do. So for the example you did, Paul, we took a sort of generic template of a test to make it easy for people to see what it's like. But for our enterprise customers, they can write their own sets of tests. And in fact, we ship a bunch. Every month, we ship more templates. So like this last month, we shipped a template. If you wanted to test with your customers concerns around inflation and how they view pricing sensitivity, we created a test template for that. So our enterprise customer could say, oh, I want to go to 15 people. They can have their own core audience. They could say it's, Midwest coffee drinkers who love the Detroit Lions. They could go to them and say, I want you to go through this test, and they'll get prompted and they share their feedback. And it all gets recorded and that, gets processed by our system and brought in as a video.
What happens if you, for example, get some highly specific set of criteria from customer and let's say the number of people who fulfill that criteria is really small?
Yeah. So we give some guidance so people have a sense of what they're looking for. We have a really big network. So since the company's been founded, we've qualified over 600,000 people, have gone through our process, have been screened, that they give high quality feedback, that they narrate their thoughts well. And most people are testing in batches of 10 to 15. So, odds are decent, but to your point, maybe you're looking for something really specific. The other thing we let our customers do with our platform is you can either send a link to people you already know, or you can integrate it into a customer database platform you already have and onboard people that way. So you might say, if you've got I don't know, Charlie asked a question. So if we use Salesforce as an example, I've got a Salesforce system. I've got maybe Pardot on top of it. So I'm able to go find a very specific audience. And why do I have to go to user testing to find that audience? I already have my customers and I have all this data about them. So you could maybe say, launch a little Pardot campaign where you're saying, Andy, we're reaching out to you. We're this brand that and you're one of our customers. And here's a link. And would you like to give us feedback on our new pickup online option or feedback on our pricing or whatever that is? I click that link and it takes me into that recording environment. We have a whole bunch of proprietary technology where we don't even have to do a plugin or a desktop recorder. We're just using what's in the browser for them to sort of share all that feedback, or it could be on their mobile device. We even have some really cool ones. I think, Paul, I mentioned this one to you, where people will use the camera phone and test real world experiences. So you could say, what's it like when my box arrives from Amazon? Well, you can turn on the camera and show an unboxing. What's it like when I talk to the strange, little personal assistant canister on the counter? Well, you can, point your camera phone at it and you can actually watch somebody interact with a real life experience.
Let me. So this might sound. This is pretty crazy, but and you might not scale to this level, but it's not high volume. Okay, you'll see what I mean. So that person, let's say, who's doing the unboxing, could you effectively track their day?
So
Their
you
whole
could
day,
set
if
up
they record their day.
Yeah, they could set up a series of tests. So it would be more like you want to do check-ins with them. We do allow you to do some fairly long testing in a custom way if you want to do that. But more often, for example, we helped a company, very, very large software company, where they wanted to see developers, build something on their platform. Well, that's not a 10-minute test. I mean, I write software pretty quickly, but like 10 minutes is pretty fast. So you might want to check in, like, okay, come back in a week and show us, progress on the thing you built. Can you show us what you've liked and not liked kind of in the experience? And again, what's really powerful is you're hearing the real voice of the person, and they can show you what's working, what's not working, and things like that. So you can sort of do a series of things, or maybe if you're doing more market research, you want to find out, like, what do millennials eat for breakfast every day? You could have a millennial show you their breakfast every day for a week. And so you'd sort of get like snapshots of something like that.
And then
So-
other millennials respond accordingly, actually.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So it looks like Christy would love to be a part of this. How do people sign up for being a part of a user testing?
Yeah, it's thank you, Chris. It is such a cool product. To be clear, I'm not the founder. I joined the company 4 years ago. It's a 15-year-old company full of great people, and I think they've got a really wonderful product that they had started with, and I've really enjoyed being a part of it. So thank you for that. So there's sort of two ways to be part of user testing. One is we have enterprise customers who buy a subscription to the product, and they tend to use it either in like their UX research team or their market research team, and they connect it into like their product development process or their marketing process. But if you want to be one of the contributors, the people that share their feedback, anyone can go sign up. You go to usertesting.com and you click on a link that says get paid to test. You fill out a little form about yourself, and then we actually have you take a practice test. And this is actually really important. Only a small percentage of people that take the test do we include in our network, because you have to be good at narrating your thoughts out loud. I'll tell you one of the secrets. Most people narrate what they're seeing, not how they're feeling. And what we're looking for is how you're feeling. Telling the designer that the navigation is at the top and it's red is not helpful if they put it at the top and they made it red. You have to sort of convey how you feel about it. What were your expectations? And if you go through that process and are accepted as what we call a contributor, then there's a dashboard of tests you can take. And when you click on it, it'll ask you questions that you can qualify for. So it'll say, do you have any kids? Are you in the market for a car? Like whatever they're looking for. And if you qualify for tests, they can range from our short test where you make $4 for a 5-minute test. Our standard typical test, you make $10 for a 15-minute test where you record yourself. You can make even more money if you want to let a product manager or a designer have a live conversation with you. So you can end up, spending 30 minutes on the phone with a designer from a big Fortune 100 brand or something, which is pretty fun. And so that's the way that works on our contributor network.
So how does the kind of on the other end of this, once you have a customer, they go through the experience, getting the feedback from the right group of people that have been selected, they get that feedback, it tells them to try this, they try that, and it doesn't work the way.
Yep.
How does that part of it work?
I think this is part of what's so valuable about using technology to solve the problem. So the way folks used to do this is you'd hire a research agency and they would go away for like 4 months and they'd go talk to your customers. I mean, they'd do an in-home study where they would go talk to people about their shopping behavior online or, whatever that would be. Meanwhile, your team is operating in 2-week sprints. And so from like where you sent them off on that mission to when they arrive, a lot changes. In fact, your product is different than when you sent them off on the mission to when they come back. And so what condensing this down to using technology does is it allows it to be highly iterative. I'll give you an example. One of the videos on our website is a company called Scott's Miracle Grow. They do gardening stuff.
I know them well.
So not just tech companies that do this, right? A lot of brands. Scott's Miracle Grow, in this video, they talk about how they used to do 4 market research studies every year to understand what new gardeners were looking for advice and guidance and things like that. And now with user testing, they do 70 studies a year. And they do all of that 65% faster. And that's just because, again, we're taking something that would have taken 4 months and we're doing it in an hour, in 2 hours. And so, Brent, to your question, what that means is you can iterate. It can just be part of your design and sprint process, right? You design something, you test it, you learn, you design it, you test it, you learn, and you do all that before you hand it to those really expensive engineering resources to go build it. And you have a much higher probability of success when something comes out. We also see people do this where they test properties that aren't even their own. Again, we're not an SDK. So if you're, a coffee company and you want to test a competing coffee company's mobile app, you can do that. If you're an airline and you want to test what's it like to shop on Expedia for our airline tickets. During the first part of COVID, we had fast service restaurants testing their DoorDash experience. How does my menu show up? Is it easy to buy for me on DoorDash? Because it became this big part of their revenue stream. So you can test everything from prototypes to your live app, to your competitors' apps, to, sort of upstream and downstream parts of the experience that you don't control. And you can do it very iteratively.
So it seems to me that the format that is probably, and I may be completely wrong here, but format that's most frequently tested is some sort of web-based journey of some kind.
Yeah, web or mobile. Web or mobile is mostly digital, but we do physical, but mostly digital.
But even on the digital side, for example, the e-commerce buying experience, things like that.
Yeah.
But what about testing? And I'm just thinking of use cases in my head now. A show like this.
Yep. Sure.
So I don't know if you have a package for those kind of things.
Yep.
But you do, because I will tell you, if you think about it, you've got what somebody mentioned, and these are just podcasts. But I can't imagine how many millions of shows there are for video streaming of some kind or pre-recorded shows. But there are tens of millions of them, and all of them could use some user feedback. A lot of them are smaller. In fact, most of them are smaller, so they would need a package that's affordable. But at the same time, holy crap, what a use case that would be.
Yeah, we sell to SMBs all the way up to very large enterprises. So we definitely have packaging that sort of scales down to much smaller, startups and SMBs. We are more and more seeing marketing teams using us to test things like video content. We did this when we launched our commercials that you mentioned, Brent. We tested all those commercials on our own platform. So we had hired an agency to do the commercials. Then they send us this, again, very appropriate bill for going out and getting market research on the commercials. And we were like, no, we'll do this in an hour, and they were really excited. We come back to them with this video output of real people. You can see them and hear them watching the commercials. They're sharing their feedback. They're telling us what they like and don't like, making it into a highlight reel. They're now a partner of ours, this marketing agency, and they use this to sort of test their commercials. So anything you can see on the screen, like a show like this, you can do. And there's some wild ones about in person. We had some companies testing curbside pickup where they'd have someone in a passenger seat of a car drive through with their camera phone on and show the people at headquarters what curbside pickup looks like. We had a grocery store recently doing an in-home, what they call a pantry study. How is your pantry organized with all your groceries? Because when you're making your shopping list now at home, that's kind of what you're looking at while you're deciding what to buy. And they had this idea of how do we connect with people at that moment and then translate their shopping list for when they're in the store and how it should be organized. And so lots of interesting things, but you're right. Every video podcast, every podcast, why wouldn't you want to get feedback from both your audience as well as your prospective audience?
And in a way that, again, I got a response, even though it's one person, but I got a response in 36 minutes.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would be ready by the time the show ended. Right. Yeah. But it was ready before we barely got into it. So, I think it's in fact, send us your pricing.
Yeah. So this will be the first podcast I do where I close a deal live on the internet.
Right.
So if I'm not careful, I'm gonna end up with a quota at the end of this. And I don't want that to happen.
You can make a commercial out of this, and we could be watching
my product. TV. Yeah. So, but it's right. And I think part of what's interesting is when we do it with a larger group. So you're right, Paul, with the one person, you got that back. We do it in parallel because it's self-guided. But we also use machine learning to show you what's interesting. So if you imagine if you had 15 of those, and if it was our normal length, not a short one, it was 15 minutes long, you have a lot of content coming back.
Yeah.
And so, last year alone, we processed 20 million minutes of these customer experience narratives. We use all of that to train a machine learning model to help tell you what's interesting out of all this content. So you can always sit and watch somebody. We sort of talk about this two things being true at the same time. One is we want to get you to those moments of insight as quickly as possible. But the second thing is, if on Sunday night as a product manager, you launched a test and you got 10 people to walk through your product, if every day that week you went into the office, got a cup of coffee, and spent your first 20 minutes watching real people use your product, you're probably a better product manager at the end of the week. And so you should yes, we'll get you to those moments quickly, but like you should also watch the videos. It's probably important to understand what your users are doing.
So you said how many millions of minutes?
20 million minutes just last year.
So the broad look at what were some of the broad learnings that you got from analyzing 20 millions of your user testing, kind of going on?
Yeah. So what we use the videos to do is to train a machine learning model on like sentiment, intent, behavior, like how humans interact with content, how humans interact with a shopping process, things like that. What we do not do is optimize certain models. Like we don't train a machine learning model on how certain companies optimize their shopping cart experience, because that is highly proprietary and their information and everything that people do on our platform. Some of the biggest brands in the world test some of their most proprietary, important projects on our platform before they're live. That content is like entirely theirs by like strict definition, and we're very upfront about that. But happiness and sadness in going through the process, frustration, how do people navigate through things broadly? We train that model. And again, that's what's really interesting, because then you can get all that overlaid on top of your videos. And this last release that we did over the summer for some of our larger customers, they generate a pretty good volume of content just on their own. We now let them go in and create their own derivative model. They can create their own tags with their own words and their own meaning. And our machine learning model learns that. So it can learn for this, larger customer, like, oh, that's a competitor they're talking about. Oh, that's this thing we call whatever. And you can sort of see it show up in different videos. It's really, really interesting stuff that our technology team builds to sort of help our customers sort of get to those moments quickly.
So what's like your personally favorite, coolest thing that you guys have ever done?
Well, I'm a huge Starbucks consumer. And so we worked with them on the mobile ordering process that they built. And I will tell you, it's very funny. I was not a fan of it initially, not the app, but the experience of mobile ordering, because I was still showing up and standing in line. And all these people were just coming in. I'm sort of like, hey, we had a really good like first in, first out thing going here, where the baristas were working in the order we were in. And then one day I ran in there and I was busy, and I had my, at the time, 3-year-old daughter with me. And so before we drove over, I mobile ordered, and I walked into Starbucks with my daughter and picked my coffee up off the counter. And I went like, okay, that was pretty magical. Like, that was nice. And so that's become one where like every day when I'm mobile ordering my coffee, I'm like, well, I'm really glad we helped them create this experience. So I think that one's really neat. I was with a customer, I can't use their name publicly, but I was with a customer in Scotland 3 weeks ago. And she works with one of the really big banks. And she told me this really great story about how they now have a user testing video process where they collect impactful moments from real customers. Doesn't even have to always be about their usability or anything like that. And they make it all the way up to their C-suite now. And they like the idea that these, well-off bank executives on a regular basis get to hear people say, well, I use your app because I'm trying to make a decision about, where I want to spend my limited salary this week, and I'm debating between, it's food and rent kind of stuff. And you sort of get the, she got like teary-eyed telling us like the impact it has on their company to make sure that people remember on a regular basis, like who their real customers are. And then we have one more I'll tell you that I love, which is one of a large global bank. They're using us to test their market messaging with more diverse audiences than they think their typical customer is. And they said they realize they've gotten into this feedback loop where the people at their company look a lot like their customers. And so they create marketing for their current customers, and you sort of end up in this feedback loop. And so they have a CEO-led initiative that their marketing campaigns are now being put through a process of getting feedback from different and more diverse audiences than they've targeted in the past. Wow. And it's been apparently really interesting for them to hear how some, even just their core messaging is perceived outside their base audience. And I think to me, that's kind of moving the needle. Like, we can get big companies to think about how to reach out to different audiences, change the way they think about who even their audience and customer could be. Like, that's pretty impactful.
So what's the future?
I think for us, we just want to get more ingrained into the process, I would say. Right now, we see a lot of companies doing sort of random acts of listening to customers, which is great. And they often use our product to do it. They'll say, we got this really strategic project and we're using user testing to make sure we build it right. And we're saying to them, that's great. Like, what about that less strategic, but yet also really important project going on down the hall where you've got a bunch of designers building prototypes? Like, are you user testing those? Are you getting feedback on? I liked Charlie's question on, accessibility. It might not be a giant strategic project in the company to be more accessible, but you should be more accessible. Like, are you getting that feedback when you're doing a change to your navigation, when you're changing your mobile app? And so I think the future for us is sort of getting everybody to flip this mindset of getting feedback from users is not hard, it's not expensive, it's not time consuming. That's what most people think. And so we're sort of on this mission to say, well, if you change all those assumptions, then it really should be part of your process. Like, I like the idea that there's a step in Jira for an engineering team or a step in Workfront for a marketing team that's like, well, before we go from design to production, there's a step where we get feedback like every time from customers. And I think that would really change the experience we would all have with products if companies did that.
I like that it's not just, you have your AI and you have humans analyzing the AI on the back end, but I really like that there are humans on the front end interacting to get the information, to get the insight, to get the sentiment, to get the feeling, not just a yes or no or yeah, I like it or not answer.
Yeah,
by
and
the
Brett,
way-
one of the things I would share that I didn't expect when I came to user testing that has really surprised me and has really become this sort of centering emotion that we have inside the company, which is it's not just getting the feedback, getting people to act on the feedback internally. It is so much more powerful to show real people. Nobody gets up every day, kisses their kids goodbye for the day, and goes to work to move the NPS from 17 to 18. Like, that's just like, nobody goes home at dinner and does the one good thing and one bad thing. And mom's like, well, we moved the NPS to 19 today. And I mean, like, it's not what we do, right? When you show folks real people having a negative experience with something that they've built, people are like, okay, I don't need to see that video a second time. I just want to go to my desk and fix that because that's not the thing that I built. And data just doesn't do that. We use the example of politicians, which is maybe never a good example, but I'll use it here. When they talk, they give us giant numbers, $1 trillion problem, and you kind of don't relate to it. And then they always tell you a story about they met, I was in Iowa and I met this woman while I was campaigning and she told me about how she manages her diabetes. And all of us go like, yeah, that's not right. Like, we should fix that. Like, that's the thing we should go fix.
Right.
It's the same with getting companies to care about their customers. The large data, the aggregate stuff, it's important. You should absolutely measure it, but it doesn't drive urgency. It's just like people go like, oh, that sounds insurmountable. You're telling me it's a X whatever problem. And you show a video of a couple of folks going through an onboarding experience or struggling with a checkout, or they don't get your message, and everybody in the room goes like, yeah, let's go fix that. Like, that's not what we all do. Like, that's not good. Let's go change that today. Yeah. And I think that, to me, is this whole like next evolution of the broad CRM, CX kind of space, is like, how do we get people to rally to real customer problems with real urgency? And like, that's been the kind of the magic I've noticed since I've gotten to user testing. That's pretty unique.
Well, honestly, it's the current evolution, not the next. I mean, yeah. It's literally what has to happen. By the way, if you really want to find a lot of really good, you mentioned in the very beginning that, people often just describe what they see. You want to hear what they feel, right? Just hire New Yorkers. We'll tell you.
And on that note, Andy, it's been great having you, but as great as this conversation has been, and it's been great, this last question will determine if we'll ever speak to you again. So
at all, in any circumstance ever.
Not to put any pressure on you or anything, but do you have a favorite NFL team?
So I am sort of a secret Lions fan, having grown up in Detroit. They are a tough team to love, but I still love them. But we moved to the Bay Area, and I spent a lot of time with sports with my kids. So with my boys and now my 5-year-old daughter, we root for the Niners, but I still love my Lions.
No, that's okay. Hey, it's only one wrong answer. Brent, why don't you just tell them what?
Yeah, first of all, the courage that you just displayed, telling that you were a Lions fan.
Yeah,
that's probably been the most courageous thing I've ever heard on our show before.
Right. When you mentioned them earlier, I was about to disparage them completely. I didn't. It's a good thing I didn't.
There's no pride in disparaging the Lions.
No.
Nobody gets points for that.
And quite
No.
honestly, being a Rams fan and having Matt Stafford as our quarterback instead of the other guy, Goff.
Look,
but anyway, no wrong answer. The only wrong answer would have been the New England Patriots.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
So you're good.
oh wow, then you're guaranteed to
You're
return.
guaranteed to come back, man.
That's right. Right. Well, look, I go so far back with the Lions that the quarterback, when I first became aware of them, and I am not kidding, was Bobby Lane.
Oh, that's getting back there in the
Yeah, and then after that, to go to somebody who's not really that great, Milt Plum. Right. So that goes.
Look,
my formative years were the Barry Sanders years, and like I don't know how you have the best player in the league and you can't win games. It was just like it was
one of the greatest ever. I loved him, man.
And he walked away.
Barry Sanders.
He was so frustrated. He walked away in his prime.
Yeah. No, I mean it's a tough team to be on. So we'll see. Every year I convince myself they're going to be good. Maybe this will be the year.
Pat Studs.
Okay, well, it's been good talking to you.
We'll be asking. Look, I'm a Giants fan. I have nothing to speak to. So
I'm just living the last 8 months have been pretty good for me. So I'm just enjoying
and again, you can live straight into February.
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining us. And UserTesting.com is where people can go to learn more about a lot of the things that we talked about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a book out called User Tested. It's on Amazon if you want to read some case studies and things like that. So yeah, really appreciate it, guys. This was tons of fun.
Yeah. Also send us your package.
All right. I'm on it.
All right.
All right. So on behalf of Andy MacMillan, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
That's Minnie. And whenever you see Minnie, it's time for us to say goodbye. We'll see you next week. See you, Minnie.